Hey everyone, it's Cassie and Janet with Keller Williams Jacksonville and the House to Home Group, and we've got our friend Joe Versept here, and he's from Future Home Loans. Hey Joe, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, awesome. Thanks for asking. Janet, how are you doing?
Hey there, guys.
Well, hey, listen.
Working out the tech kinks.
Definitely. Well, listen, we wanted to bring you, Joe, on so you could give us a little bit of insight on what's going on in VA loans currently. Help our sellers navigate buyers who have VA loans. And so, yeah, give us some information about what's going on in the VA loan world.
Yeah. About a month ago, rock bottom on rate, and coinciding with the virus, the news really didn't get out about everyone that was kind of a low-hanging fruit refi that was calling us to get done. We're so busy putting refis in that called after that week or two that was marginal. Didn't 3.0 was a good loan on that day. They raised up by 0.75% or so, which is the highest jump I've seen. Now we expect them to go low, maybe. Government loans, are some investing things that's going on with them. They might just stay where they are, but 3.75 on a loan is really good. Some of the lending channels, like conventional lending, they've gone to drive-by appraisal pictures and a drive-by with some of the stuff that's going on with staying in place in parts of the country. I haven't seen them do that yet, but we're still closing loans. I got 3 clear to close this week already. Processing, if you work with a good lender that's trying to stay on top of things and they have a decent processor, long things are closing. It's more of preparing things, virtual close, and drive-by appraisal. But everything's business as much as it could be in the VA lending, decent appraisal turn times. People are still refinancing. I had someone go from a 4.9 to a 3.6 yesterday. That makes perfect sense. Saves them like $250 a month at his loan amount. But yeah, in general, it's kind of like a touch and go situation. Daily comes out, maybe multiple times. Things in our industry are being affected, and how everyone's kind of doing things to like really dive into technology, sharing, since we're not going to have coffee or meeting at the volunteer event anymore. So information sharing and just kind of keeping everyone posted like this.
Yeah.
So, come on. What, can you hear me this time?
I hear you.
Okay. Paul's going to come on in just a few minutes. A VA buyer and a VA seller. So his perspective as soon as he's able to join. Question that we can ask right now is, Joe, what's the difference in the VA loan versus the VA conventional? Who for our first time home buyers that maybe have not heard, explain them to us?
VA loan is, if you're a veteran's, the best product in my opinion. 0% down, and sometimes it's a little confusing for first-time home buyers. It doesn't mean it costs a mortgage. You're probably about 2% of the value of the home to close the mortgage, which would be appraisals, inspections, escrowing your taxes and insurance, like that. And so, hey, how's it going? Yeah, and so we're just talking loans, and then how they're better is conventional. The rates are typically lower by about 0.5%, PMI or MI, and there is a funding fee, but if you're over 10% disability, that funding fee gets waived. So whereas an FHA loan or a conventional loan, if you put less than 20% down, you're still paying that monthly mortgage insurance payment, and the VA have the same funding monthly PMI. It does have the funding fee. 0% down versus 3.5% down is much better as well. So there's a win all around. You can ask for up to 4% of the sellers to pay up to 4% of those other costs. Typically, it's going to close, with about 2% of the value of the home as an additional cost. But the sellers can come to the table with zero down. Just your buyers cover a lot, but you have to have good agents like Cassie and basically make sure that they are negotiating depending on their goal there.
Thanks for that. We think we're good agents. We hope we're good agents.
Mm-hmm.
So has anyone able to join us yet?
Yeah.
I don't see Paul. Hey, Paul.
Hello.
Hey. So Paul has had the opportunity to be a VA and be on the other end as a seller and have to contemplate receiving a VA offer versus, the conventional or the FHA. And will join us so we can get a perspective, his perspective as a VA buyer, the process. So, Paul, can you just share with us your thoughts about being a VA buyer and what it meant to you to be able to use that I'm looking for?
Product?
Benefit, yeah, because that's a big deal. To be be active military benefit. So many of us have it, and it's an awesome benefit for you guys that serve our country. So could you give us a little bit of insight on how it relates to you?
Yeah, so we discussed back when I was selling the house, one of the things I didn't know at the time was that it was, say, 0.25% interest, and then you're selling to go buy another, which I did. And so I think the cheapest at that time was going maybe like 4.4 at the time without throwing any additional money down to lower it. So what I ended up doing is buying the second house and selling on the same day, but I bought first, sold second. That way I maximized that little over 400,000 that I'm allowed. So that way I keep that same percentage and sell literally like an hour or two later. So I keep that low interest rate I had, which I didn't know until like last minute. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do so we can keep your interest rate low, which is good for me because it saved me some money.
Yeah, I think so. And Paul, Joe, so a lot of people don't know what he's talking about. Have you had any buyers that have actually been able to benefit from that?
So what he's talking about is the loan officer saw Paul had a lower rate with one home. You can't lock a home rate. It's home specific. So the rate is you sign a contract, and even with a pre-approval, if you call me today with a pre-approval, I have to have the conversation and say, today the rate's 3.7%, but you can't lock a home rate on a home that you don't own. Some companies do this float thing, but they usually add a little upside to it. So it's typically in your best interest. And when you lock it and you're going to sell that and move to another home, you're going to get the day's rate. So what Paul did was take some of the equity in his, like table fund it, take the money to the next, in the same room or same, and then you fund it and take a little bit out of that equity and buy what is a point or a point kind of to buy your rate down. Another thing I want to touch on too that Paul mentioned, they were to 510,500 for the conventional A lending limit and conventional and FHA. You can use it multiple times, just like he did. That's one of the most common exceptions is that you only can use it once. You could even be kept that other home. Depends where you live. If you live in the Midwest, you could probably buy a home for $150. And then you outgrow that with your family, use that as a rental, and then buy a $300,000 home. Keep it's an investment property. If that's not your intention when you buy it primary, then they'll kill it. But it has to be your intent to live in it temporarily. Then life happens and you move on. But it's a nice cap. I just did a guy who's got 2 homes. He's making money on one in Fort Bragg, and he has a $300K home with his family. So you can use it multiple times. If you have over 10%, the funding, disability, the funding fees waived. And just like Paul said, you get a good lender and he's like, hey, I want my rate to be this. my payment to be this, and he had that equity in the first home he bought to really keep that good rate going.
It's a fantastic opportunity, and it's up to the as well as the realtors to know those options are available to our buyers and let them know that they can possibly save, like Paul said, quite a bit of money by being able to off that double, I guess like a double close almost, right?
Yeah, it's very common. Most people are not veterans, so we deal with a lot of this. I do as a veteran myself and doing mortgages now, but conventional loans, they don't have 5% a lot of times laying around, so it's very common that you sell the one home same day, fund and go, and take that equity and put it right down on the other house. They just wire all the right places, and you don't even see it.
Keep that interest rate that he had, which is great. So Paul was relocated to some state of Hawaii, and weather out there.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful. So you're living in paradise, according to what most of us would say.
We're in Florida, Janet. We're not doing too bad.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You know what? That water in Hawaii.
It is gorgeous, but we have the Tiger King. So what are you gonna do? Oh wait, no, he's Oklahoma.
So hey, Paul. So this opportunity to get Joe's brain. Is there anything that any of your friends that have the VA loans or are contemplating purchasing a home or selling a home? Anything that your VA loan, Joe, while we have them on the line?
Since I've bought and sold homes now, I come an expert just because I've learned things I haven't known. But the biggest thing I do like when it comes to buying a home is that VA home inspector who's like more in depth than a normal inspector would be. So buying a home, that kind of takes a lot of pressure off to be like, hey, that doorknob's loose, fix it. Other people would just walk by or, just like take off, they find. But, then when you sell the house, it's just, if you have a hole in the side of the house, whatever.
Are you referring to your VA appraiser, the appraiser?
There was so when I bought the house that we sold in August, and the one, I didn't have to have one in the first one because when we bought the one on Bark, I actually had the appraiser did come out, but there was another guy that was special just for VA home loans, and he was in depth of what he was to make sure this isn't like a lopsided buy, but he was literally like doing everything like, and let me flush the toilet, make sure it flushes fast enough, in depth, plus a different type of inspector would have been.
So yeah, it sounds like you have an awesome and your VA, your interest rate was, what did you get for an interest rate?
The same since the first house in 2012, which was 3.
That is an awesome interest rate. Yeah, and so you didn't have any down payment because you were using your VA, so you just had some closing costs, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's enough for our buyers, and we have quite a bit of military in Jacksonville, Florida. Joe, what do you see the most of as far as loans go? The different types of loans. Do you see more VA or?
There's definitely I'm a veteran and I focus on veterans, so I'm probably 50. I mean, it's gone up every year as I continue to like different charity groups and be involved in the veteran community, but my loans are more our VA home loans, but it's probably, there's with families and people that stick around after they are discharged and things like that. You're like 250,000 people with military in the greater North Florida area. So it's a large market, and I wanted to touch on one thing that Paul said was about the appraisers being tough, or not tough, but the being thorough. There's a big about a VA offer week, or we're not going to pass an inspection, but it's not. You're looking out for the buyer, number one. You shouldn't be selling anyone a lemon, and it should be bells and whistles for that. They say we don't accept any of these kind of programs because they're not going to pass that inspection. You need to know why. You need to know why you're going to give someone a conventional loan, not a VA loan, because if they're telling you it's not going to pass, they sure know why. And so that's the benefit, and it's a battle too sometimes because a lot of listing agents are going to look at VA offers. They're not strong or this or that because they're zero down. But as a loan officer, I usually just pick up the phone as soon as I get a contract, or if it's, and you guys let me know, and I can call the listing agent and just tell them about the strength of the file, because VA buyers are best to me because they typically show up for work and have good jobs after they get trained. So
the best point, because I encounter that quite a bit, and it's a conversation I have with buyers, conversation I have with sellers that don't want to consider a VA, and they'll actually say that on the listing agreement, no VA, but and I have to just really try to encourage them to accept VA, especially in the city of Jacksonville. But again, you made a point. If somebody doesn't want to work with a VA offer, and because they're working, that should be a red flag for just about any buyer out there, right? So I think that was a point to make, and hopefully it resonates. Paul, are you still online by chance? Is Paul gone?
He's still here.
Hey, Paul, did you have anything else to share with us, or I think we tried to cover just want to take and hit on.
Nothing. Hopefully, I can come back to Florida and buy another home.
I know, waiting for you to come back to Florida. Okay, I didn't know for sure. So you're not going to go up north. You're going to come back and visit with us, huh?
I'm going to try.
Here and tell everybody bye, and we'll talk with you soon.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Bye, Paul.
Bye.
And so cool, Joe. Is there any other highlights you want to just mention to
one of them is I'm not always the best lender as far as rates. Most 9 out of 10, but I turned down 2 deals this week just to go to other people. They had me review their deal. Must have locked when they had some good rates and go ahead. So I want to make sure that veterans are getting a fair shake and the correct information when it comes to lending.
That's awesome, Joe. You said a magic word for me. It's a magic word for Cassie as well as passion. So we actually good to know that you have this passion in what you do, and we have that same passion. But I won't go on as long as you did. But I will give you a pound back or whatever. I did have a customer that you did not with. We tried. So I want this audience to know is sometimes you make decisions, and when you're looking at realtors, you try to pick people that align with you and understand what you're trying to do, and have the background and the knowledge to be of service to you. So this particular customer.
All right, guys, we got less than a minute before we get cut off.
Okay, so she was not going with you, Jack. She told me that. She said that you did not have the absolute best rate, but you had the best knowledge. So awesome to have you on, and any of our customers that have VA benefits, we'd like to introduce you to Joe.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe, for being on.
My pleasure.
All right, guys. Awesome.
Bye, y'all.
Talk soon.